Good afternoon, guys. We apologize again for the technical problem that we have experienced during our Facebook Live this morning about our seminar. So we just decided to record everything from the start until the end so that you can take note of the takeaways that you can learn from this topic. Okay? So topic that I'm going to discuss will be about key concept for robotics curriculum implementation. Okay, we're going to talk about 4 subtopics, which is basically what are the myths that students, teachers, and administrator or the school perhaps are thinking why they cannot implement robotics in their curriculum. Second is what are the key competencies that this curriculum should develop to our students before we sign into a contract or an agreement for any provider. And then third, I'm going to make a walkthrough on what are the different steps, what are the different requirements for the school to actually implement a robotics program. And then lastly, we will discuss on how many kits per students do we really need for a good implementation of the program. We will talk about the different tasks that will be assigned to the students once we start implementing the robotics program, and how are we going to solve problems that might arise upon implementation. Okay? So first is, we're going to identify what are the myths about robotics curriculum implementation. Bakit kaya ayaw ni school or natatakot si school or this makes the school say no to adopt certain programs to be implemented in their curriculum, especially with robotics. Okay? One is robotics curriculum. Robotics kit is expensive. Okay? Now, is this a myth or is it a truth? Maybe 5 or 7 or 8 years ago, this is very true. Now, robotics kits are very expensive. Imagine a kit will cost your school around 50,000 pesos. No? And how many students do you have in a class? You have 40, you have 50. Now, imagine how much cost the school needs to invest before they can actually implement a robotics program. Diba? So it's expensive. Eh sir, bakit dati nabalitaan namin na this school is already implementing robotics? Eh mahal pala yung robotics that time. Yes, their school were already implementing robotics beside even if the cost of the kit or the program is very expensive. Pero this is the sad reality. The school will post in their announcement that they're implementing robotics, but they only acquire 3 kits or 4 kits or 5 kits. Sabihin na natin na 5. No? If you have 5 kits and you have 50 students, imagine the number of kits to a student. No? One kit to 10 students. What are the implications? Diba? We're going to talk about the details of this later on when we talk about robotics kit. No? But I just want you to know that there are schools who are implementing this way back. No? But it's not about the implementation, it's about the quality. No? Because, again, robotics kit was very expensive that time. Now, with some of the new microcontrollers, some of the new robotics kit being introduced, especially in the educational sector, these are very affordable. Your 60,000 way back is only for a kit. Now, it might be, you can spend that for, let's say, 4 kits or 5 kits. No? It depends on which company is offering that to you. So you need to have some time to scout some companies that offers the lowest price. Okay? But then again, if that will be the lowest price, it's not the only key variable that you need to undertake when you are signing a contract about a robotics program. No, but that's one thing that we need to consider. No, the cost of the program. It should not be expensive anymore. Next is, Is it a myth or a truth, or there is a truth about robotics being more on electronics? Okay? Now, with every seminar that I am conducting, no, they always tell me, sir, baka hindi ako masyadong makasunod, wala akong alam sa electronics. Now, let me tell you, electronics on robotics is only 20%. 80% in robotics are more on programming. Okay? You just need to have the basic concept in electronics like resistors, capacitors, voltage, yung pinaka-basic lang about electronics. DC, AC, voltage, yun lang. But it's not everything. Robotics is not about electronics at all. Okay? It's more on programming. That's why, if you're going to scrutinize a program for robotics, you need to look at the curriculum and see if the curriculum deals more on the programming rather than the hardware. 80% must be dealt in programming. Sir, ano bang pagkakaiba ng robotics at electronics? Para malabo, ano yung 80% mo, ano yung 20% mo? Example, if you switch on the light, it turns on, and you switch it off, and it turns off, that is electronics. But at the end of the day, when you turn on and off the lights, and the system can tell you how many times you turn it on, how many times you turn it off, then that is robotics. One key component of robotics is that it must have an intelligence. Okay? So, robotics, it has electronics on it, but it's more on creating the intelligence on how your robot should behave based on the requirements. Okay? So it's more on programming. Actually, the reason why we decided to include robotics in our curriculum because we want to produce graduates that are critical thinkers. We want to produce graduates that are good in programming. Before we offer programming from first year to fourth year, grade 7 to grade 10, no? And then we realized that robotics are dealing with programming. At the same time, there is a hardware that makes the subjects more interesting. So it's more on creating the intelligence. It's more on programming. Next is, robotics is too technical. Okay? It's too technical. There are different subject areas in computer science. You have web development, you have game development, you have programming, you have robotics, you have graphic design. No? All of these subjects under ICT, under computer science, these are technical subjects. No? If you are a subject coordinator, what you are thinking every single start of the year is that where would I assign this subject? Okay? Sino yung mas nakakaintindi nitong subject na to? Why? Because it's technical. Okay? So, robotics is a technical subject because if there is a certain code that misses a character, if you misspelled a word, that's already an error. If your program is already running, and then suddenly it stopped, it's already an error. These are very technical. Okay? But, given the proper training, given an adequate time for training teachers on how to implement robotics, how to train them how to program, then the subject will be not technical at all. In some cases, there are teachers who are already knowledgeable with the subject matter. But yet, when they deliver the lesson, students still see it as a technical subject. I always tell my teachers, when you are assigned a technical subject, it is your sole responsibility as a teacher to think of ways on how you can deliver the lesson on a very non-technical way. So, two things that I want you to remember when it comes to robotics being technical. It depends on your competencies as teacher. It depends on your communication skill as a teacher as well. Okay? So, maybe robotics is technical, but it depends on your skill as a teacher. Another myth about robotics is that it's dangerous. No? Sir, nako, baka pag pinagdikit namin to, sasabog yan. No? Sir, pag ginawa namin to, baka may makuryente kami. In some cases, this might happen. Okay? If you will be dealing with 220 volts, you might have a problem with it. If you misconnect the ground and the 5 volts, your module might get burned. Okay? Pero kung 5 volts lang naman yan at nagkabaliktad yung ground, hindi naman yan sasabog. It will just burn your module. Pero kapag 220 volts, medyo delikado yan. Maaaring sumabog yan or maaaring makuryente yung estudyante. So we need to guide them properly on how to use these devices or kits. There are some kits that are safe to use. Hindi mo na kailangan isa-isahin yung connection. There are terminals that would not fit one another kung hindi siya para doon. So it's a safety feature. Second is, if you will follow your curriculum, I don't see that there would be any activities that will deal with 220 volts. Okay? But if you are doing prototypes for exhibit, hindi natin maiiwasan that we need to control a 220 volts current. Okay? So, what we can do about it is that we need to monitor it on how they do it every single step of the project or prototype. Okay? Lahat naman ng ginagawa ng mga estudyante, if these activities are not attended, it's dangerous. Okay? But we need to give more attention on those topics, on those prototypes that will require high voltage manipulation. Okay? Again, probably, in some cases, it might be dangerous. But if you will follow rigorously the prepared curriculum, I don't remember anybody being electrocuted using 5 volts or until 12 volts na paggamit ng circuit. Okay? So, it's a misconception. Especially with junior high school and senior high school. Another one is, it's more on the wow, not the why. This is not a myth. No? This is something that has driven me to do my own curriculum in robotics. No? Sadly, there are companies, there are providers that will promise you heaven and earth just for you to sign that contract for them for 3 years, 2 years, or even a year. No? And what do they offer? They would not discuss right away about the curriculum, but rather, they will basically tell you that when you compete and you win amongst all of our clients, we will send you to an international competition. We'll send you to China, we'll send you to Singapore, we'll send you to the US. Now, some, I'm not saying all, some schools, some teachers, some administrators are more focused on what they can get on the proposal rather than what the student can get out of the program. Minsan makita lang nila na it follows the line. The arm gets one object from one point and put it on another point. Wow, okay na yan. Sige na, yan na yung kukunin namin. Unfortunately, you should be given more time to evaluate the curriculum more than the kit. Okay? So it's not more on the wow, it should be more on the why. Later, I'll be discussing about critical thinking, that your robotics curriculum must focus more on the why than the wow. No? Just one more example. Schools are very much into competition. I have nothing against competition. Competition is good. No? But they focus more on competitions, on how a robot can follow a line, on how a robot can push another robot outside of the circle, rather than focusing their attention and resources on students on how to create innovations. Like for example, now that we are experiencing the pandemic, if you're going to look at the newsfeed, if you're going to look at Facebook pages, makers are making their way to contribute on how robotics specifically can contribute in the solution of the pandemic. Now, very few are participating because very few who are already implementing robotics focus their attention on the why and the wow. So this is a very important aspect that you need to consider when you are implementing a robotics program, or if you are thinking of adopting certain proposal. Okay? Next. Since I have already understood, or I have already, I was enlightened, the term. No? I was already enlightened that these myths are not true. These myths are true, but there are precautions that we can undertake. No? Let's implement robotics now. Hindi pa rin. Okay? You need to, the most important thing that you need to consider, as I always mention, is the curriculum. What are the future-ready skills included in the curriculum that when I implement it, these are the skills, year after year, activity after activity, that my students will develop. What I'm going to mention are your checklists. Okay? Just in case na hindi ko na na-review basta sabi na lang, implement na lang namin yung robotics program there. Wala tayong magagawa. In-implement na Nandiyan na yan But these are the checklists that you need to do every after activity, every after lecture, every after performance task. Because this checklist that I'm going to mention will define whether you will terminate the contract or would not renew the contract at all. Kasi nga, walang kwenta. Okay? So, your robotics program, your curriculum for robotics, should develop on your students their communication skills. Akala nila, pag may robotics tayo, tahimik na kasi nagpo-program na. Tahimik na kasi nag-a-assemble na. Yes, it's true. You don't want any noise bothering you when you are programming or when you are assembling. No? But there should be something in the activity that would let the student express themselves. No? For example, there is a criteria in your rubrics that would enable them to explain what they did on the project. In that case, they are developing their communication skills on how to speak the language. Now, regardless whether you want to be specific with your rule that only English will be used in explaining the topic, or you allow Taglish, you allow bilingual, it's up to you. The most important part is you have them to stand up and you give them time to explain their project. Okay? In that particular case, then you are developing skills for them to express themselves, to communicate. No? And then what else? In terms of communication, we want to train them, or we want to see as the implementation goes on, we want to see if the curriculum is making our student sensitized receiver. Ibig sabihin natin ng sensitized receiver. When they work on prototypes or projects or performance tasks, for sure, time is not their side. No? In any subject naman yan, parating kulang yung oras. But as they realize it, that time is not at their side, they will be more conscious on how to receive the message. How do they understand the message? Yung bang tipong isang sabi mo lang, gets na nila kagad, gawa na kagad. Because they were trained that time is not at their side. Kaya kailangan mag-gets kagad nila. Hindi sila yung tipong mga estudyante or klase na, okay class, get 1/4 sheet of paper. Sir, 1/4? Sir, 1/2? Hindi, 1/2. Hindi sila yung mga tipo ng estudyante na, write on your papers 1 to 10. Sir, 1 to 20. Sir, 1 to 15. They should get the message right away. They should analyze the instruction and follow it right away. You call it soft skills or whatever skills, these are the skills that your robotics curriculum must possess, must have. Next is your robotics program, at the end of each activity, no, or at the end of the curriculum per se, it should develop collaboration amongst your students. Parati naman yan, no? Most of the subject that we teach, we want them to collaborate. Okay? Now, collaboration means that they are able to work together. They are able to maximize the task being assigned to them. They are able to work harmoniously. Paano yun? Doon ba sa curriculum, sinasabi niya ba, how are you going to group them? Or sabi lang, okay, group yourselves into 3. When they group themselves for 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, without explaining their responsibilities, it would result to chaos. So basically, your curriculum should have explicitly defined how collaboration can happen inside these activities. Okay? Eh sir, paano yun, no? Ang ratio ng kit namin to student is 1:1. How this one student collaborate with other students? They are not allowed to ask questions during the activity. Yes, during the activity. But outside the activity, once they go home, I think one thing that they will do is they will research on the internet. They will Google it. And then they will go into a forum. They will read on the forum. If the answer is not there, they will ask questions. Somebody will answer their question. Hindi man sabay silang nag-uusap. The moment that the question was raised and somebody answered it on the thread, your student is collaborating with somebody else. Again, collaboration. Mahihirapan yan sigurado na gawin niyang mag-isa. But of course, there are some. No? Pero they would seek help for other people for sure. Okay? Next is, when we talk about collaboration, it also needs to develop among our student what we call self-dependent. Sir, paano yun? Kapag 1:1 kami, 1 kit to 1 robotic kit, dependent yan, siya na mag-isa, sigurado. Check na tayo dyan. Pero, yung work together, na-explain ko na kanina. Pero yung self-dependent, pasok na pasok si 1:1. Paano sir kapag 3 students to 1 kit? Paano magiging self-dependent? Tatlo nga sila. Kailangan nila mag-collaborate, kailangan nila magtanungan. When we talk about self-dependent, we are referring to the teachers. No? Let us leave them alone. No? Let them do the activities. Don't spoon-feed your students. In that case, they will learn how to be self-dependent as a group and self-dependent as an individual. I don't know with your classroom management, but for me, when I do my robotics class, my classroom management is I'm going to explain all the key concept about the module. For example, I'm going to explain how they can use this module in real life situation. I'm going to explain the schematic diagram. I'm going to explain the circuit diagram. I'm going to discuss with them the codes that is needed on how these modules will run. And then after that, during laboratory, I leave them on their own. One of my rules is that during laboratory, I don't answer questions. I already explained everything. I want you to be self-dependent. Pero syempre, kailangan conscious din tayo on how we tell the students that we don't answer question. Hindi pwede na masungit, no? Di ba in-explain ko kanina yan? Ba't pa ako mag-explain ngayon? You express to them, you train them to be self-dependent using kind words. Words that will encourage them to do more, not to do less, or to do nothing at all. Siyempre pag sinigawan mo yan, parang negative yung dating. Pero try mo nga na hanapin doon sa lecture natin kanina. Parang nandoon yan eh. Parang na-discuss ko yan. Sige, hanapin mo. Or, tingnan mo yung circuit mo, no? Parang may kulang lang eh. Parang may isa dyan na parang hindi dapat nandun. Tingnan mo yung codes mo. Parang may sumubrang characters eh. But you are not pointing on the exact solutions. You are just telling them or guiding them on the right path to come up with the correct solution. Because if you tell them the correct solution right away, there is no self-gratification that they have solved the problems on their own. Okay, palitan mo yan, pinalitan, sir, tapos na kami, check, tapos na. Walang impact. Pero let them do, guide them on what they need to do to come up with the correct solutions or answer. At the end of the day, nag-gets ko. Sakto, nagawa ko. Diba? That is what we want to do. We being great teachers are not measured on the number of lectures that we give to our students, but on the actual learning and application of that lecture to their everyday lives. Okay? So let's teach them how to be self-dependent. Next is critical thinking. Okay? This is one of the most important part of the curriculum that you need to search whether it is incorporated in the lectures, activities, performance tasks in the package that you are availing. When we talk about critical thinking, for me, it's synonymously the same as logic, power of reasoning. In programming, it is also equivalent to logic. Programming is logic, power of reasoning. No? It means that every code that I'm going to write, there is a reason behind that. If I use int, my explanation is that I am preparing a variable that will hold a numerical value that has no decimal point. That's why I use int for the data type. There's logic. There's critical thinking. Anong sabi ko kanina? Let's give them time to explain. Eto na yun. Diba? You are targeting two birds with one stone at the same time. You give them chance to speak, develop their communication skill, and as you listen to their reason, you are now measuring if they are critical thinkers. Kapag kinopya lang nila yan, they cannot explain. Kinopya lang nila, copy-paste lang eh. Even the circuit, pwede lang nilang kopyahin how the other group connected the modules on their circuit and apply it on their own. Pero, we cannot measure kung naintindihan ba nila o hindi. Unless otherwise, we ask them questions. We give them time to express themselves. We give them time to reason out, explain the logic on why. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, your robotics program should deal with the why rather than the wow. Okay? Critical thinkers. Your students should learn how to ask questions. Now, don't be bothered with it. Paano sa kunyari, walang nagtanong ng question? Ang ugali pa naman natin mga teachers, after the discussion, just for us to wash our hands, na nagtanong tayo, okay class, is there any questions? Wala. Is there any questions? Wala pa rin. Going once? Going twice? Last dismiss. Now, don't be bothered when nobody asks questions during that time. But when you are discussing, makikita mo naman sa expression ng mukha. If they are, paano nga ba to? No? Paano nga ba nangyayari ito? Some does not have that skill yet to express themselves. Okay? Kaya nahihiya sila. Pero as you go around, while they are doing their project, you will see on their facial recognition on how they are reacting to the problem. Ano nga ba to? Parang hindi ko kaya ito. Diba? Alam mo eh. So, if implementing the program and you are seeing these indicators, it means it's a big check. Diba? Okay, itong mga activities it makes our students ask questions. Okay? What else? There are critical thinkers if you teach them, if at the end of the lesson, you develop the ability of your students to think out of the box. When you do your lecture, 1 plus 1. When you do your formative activity, 1 plus 1 plus 1. When you do your summative activity, 1 plus 1 multiplied by 3 is equals to, at first, you give them what they can use inside the box. After that, let them do activities that will basically let them think out of the box. Hindi niya naman ni-lecture to Bakit sinasabi niya rito sa activity na to? They are already thinking. Diba? Pero, if the activities being prepared by your program was finished, in a very short period of time, ang bilis na tapos, probably your students are good. Pero kung lahat ng estudyante, ganoon ang nagiging sequence, ganoon ang nagiging pattern, tapos kagad, you might need to rethink. You might need to evaluate again your curriculum. You might need to evaluate again your program. Is the program developing our students their ability to think out of the box? And then, critical thinkers knows how to evaluate data. One mistake that we do as teachers when we teach programming is that we allow our students to finish a problem from the start until the end right away. Now, if there are errors that happens along the way, students will just experience frustration. Ano ba yan? Bakit mali yung output? Ano ba yan? Bakit yung syntax ko mali? They should learn how to evaluate data, especially in computer. We always deal with input, process, and output. Basic concept in computer, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If your input is correct, regardless of your process, for sure your output will be incorrect. So why not train your students to focus first if you are getting the right input? If you are getting the right input, the next step is to identify the process. The third step is to test the process whether it will come up with the expected output. Module by module. Let them evaluate first what are the different variables that we have before we create the process. What are the different variables that we have before we create the solution? Dati nga nung time namin, pag mag-solve ka ng math problems, what is the problem, what is given, what is the process, and then solution. Sa sobrang instant ng mga bagay ngayon, instant noodles, instant money, pati solution sa mga ganito, instant na rin. How I wish that this is how we're going to do programming or robotics or any problem for that matter, for us to develop critical thinkers amongst our students. Okay, next one is creativity. Okay? Creativity means that the program that you are using, the program that you are evaluating are more lenient of developing prototypes, developing activities, developing exercises, coming up with something new out of nothing. That's creativity. Sometimes what we do is we just copy, and copy. It's not creativity. We should learn how to create new inventions. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of copying. Okay lang sa akin na kumopya. Okay lang sa akin na gayahin. Okay? Ako nga, I would encourage you to create activities or additional activities where they will follow instructables, they will follow YouTube instructions, they will follow written examples, and then out of there, they need to create something new. You need to immerse themselves on these technologies before you expect them to do something new. Hindi yan yung, okay, eto yung lesson natin, do something new. No. You need to immerse your students with the different uses of this technology before you can actually create something new. Ang punto ko lang is that before that you don't be satisfied with the output that you already know has been copied from another project. There should be some improvements. Katulad ng operating system natin, Windows. It started with Windows 3.0. And then it's too slow. The graphic is not good. They created Windows 95, but it consumes a lot of memory. They created Windows 98. It's the same technology, but every time that they do another one, there is a new invention, there is a new concept, there is a new technology embedded into it. Okay? Being creative means you are a flexible thinker. What do I mean? Bago to. Ako pa lang nakakaisip nito, no? Pero along the process, biglang meron kailangan baguhin. Yung iba stubborn. No, I'm going to stick with my plan. Even though at the middle of it, you already found out that at the end you're going to fail. It's not being creative. You should be able to learn. You should be able to see your student while they're doing this and you suggested something that will make it better, they would accept it right away. Or at least they would consider. Diba? So being creative means you are a flexible thinker. Next is they are able to adapt to changes. Okay? Like for example, your students are focused right now with IoT projects. No? That's the latest. No? IoT. Then, the pandemic came in. No? There are projects that you can do without IoT. Hindi IoT ako IoT ako. Ito yung gusto kong gawin ngayon eh. But the requirement, the need right now is about projects that will solve the pandemic. If you want to be creative, you should be an open-minded person. Diba? Nagbago eh. Ibahin muna natin yung linya natin. Diba? Suddenly, when you are preparing your curriculum, the internet is not working. How are you going to adapt to these changes? You need to be creative as a teacher. Ano yung pwede kong ipalit dito sa activity na to? Diba? Your curriculum, your program should give you some sort of plan B or plan C if this thing happens. Or you are already prepared by your provider that if this thing happens, these are your alternatives. Okay? Again, this is another key element that you need to check if you are implementing it. This is another element that you can X out or check out also during the implementation. Okay? So, it's about how are we going to evaluate a program that will be implemented. It's how are we going to take notes of the experiences that we encountered on the process of the implementation. Because these are the key elements that will help us decide to continue with the program, end with the program, or look for another program. And the key elements or key indicator for this are, does your program develop the communication skills of your students? Does your curriculum provides enough activity for them to think critically? Is there enough activities? Is there enough space within the program that lets them do something new, create something new, become creative for that matter? No? Is there any part of the program that would enable your student to collaborate with their classmates, with the internet, with a group chat perhaps? These are the key elements or concepts that we need to consider during implementation, before implementation, and after implementation. And another thing, as I have mentioned, seldom that you heard from the start until now that I talk about the kit. It is not about the kit. It's about the program. Okay? Next, let us now discuss, okay, sir, na naintindihan na namin, no, that these are only myths. We are already enlightened na eto lang naman yan. Now, we found a partner, we found a provider, we found a program that answers or develop these key competencies among our students. We are now ready to implement it. How are we going to implement now the robotics program? You are fortunate if until at this point, your provider will still give you the guidance. Okay, but if not, these are the key concepts, these are the elements, these are the things that you need to consider as a school during or before the implementation of your robotics program. Number one is you need to consider your time. Okay? For public school, for example, most of them doesn't have a separate time for computer. So if you will replace their computer subject with robotics, it should be integrated with other subjects. Okay? So problema ng ibang public school, how can we introduce another subject? Yung dating ang web development, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, etc., we find it difficult to integrate it with other subject matter. And with some of the programs that I see right now, medyo malaking problema yung subject integration. There are few programs that explicitly define on what particular subject this topic can be integrated. No? For sure, this program has this curriculum developer already considered the vertical articulation of the program. It means that they already identify all the power competencies from grade 7 to grade 10. They have already distributed it. There is no redundancy. It's already created a spiral, etc., etc. But the problem right now that we have is how are we going to do the horizontal articulation of the curriculum? It means that how are we going to spread out, how are we going to identify the connection of our topics to science, math, English, social, etc. Okay? Yung time. Problema natin. Sir, we're not a public school. A private school kami. We meet once a week. That's good. Anong problema natin sa time? Your current computer subject, will it be replaced by robotics? Or will robotics just be integrated within your computer subject? Diba? So, time na naman ang problema natin. Yung ibang school naman, they have 3 times a week to meet. Okay? Paano naging problema yung time? 3 times a week nga sila nag-meet. On that 3 times a week that you are meeting them, no, how many hours are you going to allot for the hands-on? How many hours are you going to allot for the lecture? Or, how many hours will I allow for robotics? How many quarters will I allow for robotics? How many semester will I allow for robotics? And how many hours, how many semester or quarter will I assign other subject matter, other computer subject? Okay? So, you need to consider the time that you have. Yung iba naman ang ginagawa nila, this will only be for special class. Pwede rin naman yun, no? This will meet once a week and everything that they will discuss is only about robotics. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay? It will be a separate subject. Okay? So again, time means, will it be a separate subject or will it be integrated with other subject? Another thing to consider on your implementation is your robotics kit. Ito na tayo sa robotics kit. No? I have a robotics kit that costs 50,000. I have a robotics kit that costs 70,000. I have a robotics kit that costs 20,000. Which one would I buy? It's not about the robotics kit. It's about the competencies. I can use a robotic kit that costs around 10,000 pesos and develop the same competencies that a 50,000 pesos robotic kit has. That is because your robotic kit is only a tool. It's only a tool. Yung 50,000 robotics kit, an LED will teach you an if-else conditional statement. That's the competencies. It will teach you the looping statement. I can do that with the same robotic kit that costs only 5 pesos per LED. So it's not about the kit. So those who are asking, sir, what is the best robotic kit outside the market? No? All robotic kits are the best. It depends on what competencies do you want to develop. Parang dati, ang tinitignan natin parate when we teach are the subject the topics, no? Ano yung mga topics na i-discuss ko for this year? Hindi. Ano yung competencies that you want to develop throughout the year? And then from your competencies, you now develop or you now get the proper tool in doing so. You get the topics. That's the role of your robotics kit. Okay? Second, what is the ratio of a kit to a student? Of course, the ideal is 1:1. Okay? Especially now that we encountered the problem about the pandemic. Imagine, if the kit is owned by the school and then suddenly the school year stops, but you still need to give them assignment to complete the requirement, how can they do that if they don't have a robotic kit at their home? So meron naman simulators we have Tinkercad, we have this and that. Pwede naman. Okay? But nothing replaces experience. Experience that you assemble it, experience that you finish it, the experience that you burn it. Diba? So, one thing that you need to think of about robotics kit, when the school purchase the robotics kit, and then we will just have the student use it inside the school, or since the kit is very much affordable right now, we can already ask the students to buy their own kit. So 1:1 is the ideal. Kung talagang wala pang budget si school, we can opt to 2:1. Kung walang-wala talaga, sige 3:1. Mamaya i-mention ko what will be the role of these members inside this group if that is 3:1. Sir, wala talaga Wala talaga. But we're willing to 4:1, sir. Para sa akin, 4:1 will be the maximum. As in the maximum. Okay? Because remember, no matter how good your program is, no matter how good your teacher implementing the program is, if the number of students to a kit would not be enough, would be more than 4, your computer program will definitely fail. It will fail. So consider about buying enough robotics kit in your class. Meet na lang yung expensive. Next, technological infrastructure. Okay, sir, we have the time. You already have the kits, 3:1, as you mentioned. What else? Technological infrastructure. Do you have enough laboratory rooms to accommodate your robotics classes? Inside your room, do you have computers? What is the speed of your computer? May ibang mga robotics material or course program na medyo mataas yung specs na kailangan nila. Meron din naman mababa. Now, the arrangement of your seats. Siyempre, 1:1 tayo sa computer before. And nag-3:1 ka. They should have enough space for them to work on with their hardware. Ako, ginawa ko, 3:1, yung dalawang computer pinatanggal ko. So, isang computer lang naman ang gagamitin. Tapos, etong part na to, yung empty space na nagawa natin, doon na sila mag-assemble ng prototype. Do you have internet connection? We want to avail of your IoT program, Internet of Things. So basically, you need internet connection. Kung mabagal yung internet, kung wala kayong internet at all, then how are you going to implement the program? You need to consider your technological infrastructure. Next, staff training. Okay? These are the common hindrances why school doesn't want robotics to be incorporated in their curriculum. The price, the time, and the competencies of the teachers. Sinabi mo pa lang, uy, magro-robotics tayo ngayon. Naku, wala akong alam dyan. Matanda na ako para dyan. Bigay mo na lang doon sa teacher na mas bata sa akin. The reason why we are afraid as human beings, we are afraid of what we don't know. Hindi natin alam eh. Kaya ako, if I would convince a school to adopt a robotics program that I have created, I don't want a presentation like this. I would opt to demonstrate to them, to ask their teachers to undergo my training. In that case, they will experience how easy it is to implement the actual program. Train your staff, equip them, equip your teachers with the key competencies on how they will implement your robotics program smoothly. Not only that, the competencies of your teachers are not only dependent on them, sometimes they are dependent as well with your provider. How many times did your provider visit your school to ask your teachers, how's the implementation? Are there any problems that you are encountering? How could we help? For me, at least, they should visit you once a month. Physical visit. The communication through FB, Messenger, and text, that should happen regularly, but at least once a month. There should be someone going to your school and asking you about problems encountered during the implementation and give some alternatives or solution onto it. Diba? So train your staff and make sure that the support coming from your provider will always be there. Staff training. Just some few more slides. Another one is management of your resources. What do we mean by management of your resources? Okay? You acquired 50. You acquired, let's say, 25 robotics kit. No, you have 2:1 ratio. How are you going to store them? Okay? Are you going to store your robotics kit on, let's say, a box to give it to them? They do the activity, they return it to you. Okay? Or are you going to store your robotics kit within containers where you just put out those materials or devices that your student needs when they will do the activities? Or you have 2 laboratories, but you only have 1 robotic kit or 1 set of robotic kits. You need to transfer it from one room to another. How are you going to manage your resources? When are you going to evaluate? When are you going to make your inventories? Will it be daily? Will it be monthly? Will it be a section after section? Now, my suggestion is this. If this is a shared kit, it means the kit belongs to the school. A section will be using the kit for now, and another section will be using it after. I would suggest that you have some sort of containers, no? Rather than giving them individual kits inside the box. Especially if what you have inside the box are devices that will not be used in the activity. They will just get curious. Baka masira pa. Hindi katulad ng naka-container, you just bring out what is needed for the activity. That will make your life easy and inventory of your kits easier. Kasi kapag naka-box, syempre, kahit yung hindi ginamit, i-account mo yan. Bibilangin mo yan. And then kapag nakaganito naman, naka-drawer siya, kung ano lang yung nilabas mo, yun lang yung bilangin mo. And assign someone to do that. If not, I would suggest that you have a robotics technician always standby during your period. Ang ginagawa ni robotics technician parang si science laboratory technician. Siya yung nagbibigay ng mga kailangan ng estudyante. Siya rin yung gumagawa ng inventory. Siya yung nangangalaga. Siya yung nag-aayos. Somebody who knows how to solder. Somebody who knows robotics as well. So that you as a teacher, you focus your attention on delivering the lesson smoothly. You don't concern about the kids anymore. It's not your concern anymore. So you need to manage your resources. Okay? You should know where to place it. Next is try to join online community. Okay? On these different online communities over Facebook, over threads, over web pages, websites that you can join. This will enrich your knowledge with robotics. No, not only as teachers, pati yung mga estudyante. No, doon sa mga group na to, maraming mga questions, maraming mga problems na nagtatanong. Okay? And then somebody would answer it and then it will reply, okay, nasubukan ko yan, gumana. It's something that you gain, no, outside of your curriculum. Online community is very important or helpful when you are implementing the program. You as a teacher, when you join online community, this is where you will get some ideas, no, that you can use, some prototypes that you can ask your students to do. So join online communities. Last one under implementation is that you try to go beyond the curriculum. What do I mean by you go beyond the curriculum? It means that if the curriculum shows you or teaches you A to B, try to learn the other letters of the alphabet. Okay? For example, you already have your regular classes for robotics. Assemble a robotics team. Ano yung ginagawa ng robotics team? They are not only focused on competitions, but you will teach them something that we don't teach in the curriculum, so that at the end of the school year, they would come up with prototypes that are outside of the curriculum, additional prototypes, additional project that you can use on your exhibit. Okay? You go beyond the curriculum. Tayong mga teachers, sadly, sometimes, hindi ko naman nila lahat, we are too dependent with the book. Lahat gusto natin sundin kung ano yung nakalagay sa book. Kung ano yung explanation sa book, yun na yun. No? We copy and paste it on the PowerPoint. No? We need to try to explore. We need to try to go beyond the curriculum. It's a responsibility that you will be burdened of if your heart is really in the field of teaching. Whether it is on ICT, whether that is on robotics, whether that is on English. It will be a burden unto your heart to go beyond the curriculum, no, if you are really into teaching. Okay? Now, we already busted and proved some of the myths about robotics. We already identified that these are the different skills and competencies that we want our graduates to have. We have already listed out the different steps, the different aspects of the implementation of the robotics program inside our school. The next thing that we need to remember is, eto na, you are already inside your classroom. How are you going to group them? So let me just discuss how you will go through with your robotics task assignment. Again, the idea is 1 kit to 1 student. At most, you have 1 kit to 4 students. But if you have at most 1 kit to 3 students, this is how you will be dividing the key assignment to them. Okay, member number 1 will be the programmer. The main responsibility of the programmer is to type the codes, to give instructions to the robot. He is the one responsible in making the robot to act intelligently. Okay? Si programmer ang gagawa nun. Second member of the group would be the assembler. The main responsibility of this guy is to get what is needed on the robotics kit and bring it to the group. At the same time, assemble it. Make sure that all connections are on the right places. Si assembler yan. And then the last member of the group, the third member of the group, is the checker. While the ito yung supervisor. While the programmer is typing the codes, he is already scouting the syntax error. While the program is running, he is also looking into the logical errors. While the program is running, they are already looking into the runtime error. Dalawa na sila. But just in case that the program runs smoothly, another concern of the assembler is to double check also the work of the assembler if everything are connected properly. Yun yung trabaho ni assembler. Okay? Now, at most, kung 4 members per group, the main problem is anong gagawin niya. No, siguro ito yung taga-masahe, taga-bili ng pagkain, taga-bayad ng bills. No, kidding aside, he can be in charge of the documentation. No? But this will be an additional burden to the teacher. You need to modify now your rubrics in such a way that there are documents that they need to pass and for you to check. Okay, that's the most number of students that I can think of on a robotic groupings, if not 1:1. If you're going to exceed that number, there's a big probability that your program will fail. Okay? Now, let's not stop with these responsibilities. After the project, after the activity is done, it is now the responsibility of each people in this group to explain what they did. Hindi yan yung, tapos na yung program, gumana na, sir, paki-check, okay, 100 yan, tapos na. There should be a time allotment on where each individual in the group will explain what they did so that the assembler will learn the program and the programmer will learn how to assemble. If you're going to do this inside your robotics class, namimit natin yung isa sa mga future ready skill na minention ko kanina, communication. Okay? They should communicate to one another. And then lastly, after the activity, and you will be doing another activity, this responsibility should change or should be rotated. Kung programmer ako ngayon, sa susunod ako naman yung checker. Kung checker ako ngayon, sa susunod ako naman yung assembler. Kung assembler ako ngayon, sa susunod ako naman yung programmer. So, there should be something on the, let's say, grading sheet that you are collecting from them that you can find out, you can make sure that the responsibility of these people are being rotated. Okay? Yan yung mga importante na kailangan nating isaalang-alang sa groupings natin sa robotics class. Should be the question and answer, no? But again, we don't have the time kanina to do this, no? Again, I'm going to post some information about me later, no? If you have some questions about implementation, no? Something that I did not answer from this seminar, you can PM me and I will be happy to answer it as soon as possible. Okay? So, before I end, I would just like to give you this quote. The only way to basically change our educational processes, the only way for us to make that leap of faith is to basically change the beliefs, the character, change the perception, change the values of the major stakeholders inside the school. If we want to debunk the myths about robotics, if we want to implement robotics, if we want to nurture the competencies that is needed for robotics, we need to change the beliefs, the values, the character of the teachers, of the students, of the parents, of the administrators, all major key holders. And when we talk about attitude, behavior, we are talking about cultural issues. It's not a technological one. It's not about the technicalities anymore. It's about our perception about education. It's about our perception about development. It's not the bits and the bytes. With that, again, thank you so much for those who listened, watch, and bear with me with the problem that we have encountered this morning. Thank you so much. If you have questions, you can contact me on 0908-860-6795. This is my Facebook account, Arvin Buendia. You can email me at arvinbuendia@gmail.com. Okay? If you have any questions, or if you want us to do trainings with your teachers, you can reach me through these numbers and these pages. With that, again, thank you so much, and God bless. Let us, we together, we learn together as one. Thank you so much.